got a bumper edition of The Lead for you today. KwaZulu-Natal's emerged as the epicentre of the current devastating outbreak of foot and mouth disease amongst cattle, with farmers desperate for the new locally made vaccine resorting to the worst to protect their livelihoods. We get a sense of the situation on farms with our roaming KZN reporter, Sakhiseni Nxumalo.
It's a huge issue, and some of the farmers told me that they had to shoot some of their cattle. One of the farmers told me that he had to shoot about 20 cattle because they have been infected by the foot and mouth disease.
Then, in our trending topic, Don't Move a Muscle, former DA leader Tony Leon offers John Steenhuisen's eventual successor some strong pointers. And any guesses who his money is on?
I think he has an unusual and impressive set of skills that would serve the DA very well.
Stay tuned and you'll find out. Finally, we'll end off with On This Day in South African History, turning the book back on the historical Blood Knot theatre play which came to Cape Town in the early 1960s.
New episodes of The Lead air Monday through Thursday at 7 p.m.
In Rauby's pointless Braai quiz for today, along which popular highway in Cape Town is the city currently considering building a long and tall security wall? I'll give you the answer at the end. My name's Graeme. This is The Lead, and this is the South African story. Moving to our top story today, well, he's got his gumboots on. He's been breathing in the fresh farm air to get a true picture of the extent of the foot and mouth disease outbreak in the beautiful and vast rural KwaZulu-Natal. He's Sakhiseni Nxumalo. He's live now from our Durban newsroom. Hey, tada, Sakhiseni, are you in Durban or are you on the road?
I'm on the road, my brother. We have to be on the road. The farmers are on the ground, so we have to be on the ground.
Absolutely. Tell us, what do we know about the numbers that we're getting from government at this time, Sakhiseni? We understand KwaZulu-Natal's the most affected when it comes to this outbreak. Which districts are currently sticking out as being the sort of main epicenters for this outbreak of foot and mouth disease amongst cattle in your neck of the woods?
Yeah, no, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me again, Graeme. No, what we know from now is that, KZN is actually the epicenter of, it's now most definitely a hotspot, because looking into the numbers, we have close to over 17,000 farms that have confirmed to have, tested positive for the foot and mouth disease. And what we know from now is that Amajuba, in the northern part where there is Newcastle, there is Madlangeni, Danhausen municipality. That's where we see a lot of numbers when it comes to of the infection. And we have Amajuba followed by Utugela and also Umgungundlovu in the Midlands area. That's where the province is reporting a lot of numbers when it comes to the foot and mouth disease.
Right. You've been speaking to cattle farmers on the ground, face to face. You've seen the true extent of the situation that they currently find themselves in. It's definitely one of the worst we've seen in recent living memory. What are the farmers telling you at this stage? From what they told you, what really stood out for you as a journalist?
I think from yesterday, we've been engaging the farmers. Yesterday, I got an opportunity to engage as much farmers as I could, because there was a government engagement with the farmer that took place in Newcastle and Amateur, obviously, which is the hardest hit area. And what we got from farmers is quite devastating. From the small farm to the big scale farmers, they're raising the concern, most especially about them not being able to make a living. You find that farmers, even if you have like 15 cattle, if you can't sell any, and you survive by selling cattle, because movement is restricted, that means you can't sell. Then now it means that you're not making an income. And they experienced cases since February last year. So you can imagine, for over a year not making an income, yet you have family support, you have your loved ones. They also have to take care of your livestock, because besides them going to the field, they need some those medication every now and then, those vaccination every now and then. So it's a huge issue. And some of the farmers told me that they had to shoot some of their cattle. One of the farmers told me that he had to shoot about 20 cattle because they have been infected by the foot and mouth disease.
Sure. And that's, what a stark reality to have to live in. And one thing that stood out for me from your reporting, and it's our top story on News 24 this morning, we're losing everything. Over 17,000 KZN farms devastated by foot and mouth disease, penned by yours truly, Sakhiseni Nxumalo, is that not every livestock farmer wants to have their livestock vaccinated or dipped. Is that the experience that you've come across?
Everyone is crying for a vaccine at this present moment. Everyone, they don't see anything that would help them besides the vaccine. And look at the reality on the ground, especially in the rural areas. It's quite devastating because they don't have most of the information. They don't know what to do. Some of the farmers are still even hesitant to even get vaccinated. Remember, with COVID-19, we did have some couple of people who didn't want to get vaccinated for some reason. And the same thing with the farmer. There's still some who are hesitant, and that poses a huge danger because the virus continues to spread,
Okay. Politically and we've seen all the headlines, Agriculture Minister John Steenhuisen, of course, KwaZulu-Natal is his home province. He's now pulled himself out of the DA leader re-election race to focus on this outbreak because he's come in for a lot of criticism for his department's slow response from the farmers. He's since apologized and he says South Africa is now delivering its very first locally made vaccine for foot and mouth disease in like 2 decades. What's on the mood on the ground with regards to this crisis, Sakhiseni, from a political perspective? Do you feel like it's a political moment as well? Remember, we are going into elections later in the year.
There is a sense where you feel like it's a political. It's gaining. Politicians seem to be, taking advantage of the situation. But also on the ground, you will find that everyone is out there now speaking about the foot and mouth disease. Remember, the Premier of KwaZulu-Natal sometime did mention that all the MECs will be out on different districts in the province. Yesterday we had Martin Meyer, the MEC for Human Settlement, who was in Amachuba, also apologizing to the farmers and farming community that they should have acted early. They should have acted early, and if their government acted early, they wouldn't be here in this position. So we find that there's a lot of government activities now with politicians going out to speak to the farming community. But the one thing farming community wants is just a vaccine, and we've seen a lot of people. Even today, I've received a letter from one of the farmers who had written farming association that wrote to Minister of Agriculture John, raising the same issue. That's now okay. You've resigned, but what's next?
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely feels as if there needs to be more urgency, right?
There needs to be, definitely, and farmers now are really out crying for help, because they continue to lose on the ground. From where we are, from different seats, you wouldn't understand until you get to the ground and get to speak to them and understand the impact that this is having on their business and also on their livelihood.
Yeah, obviously, so within the province of KwaZulu-Natal, Sakhiseni, there's a significant sort of inherent cultural impact as well, right? Explain that to us.
Culturally, you find that there's this thing called lobola. Lobola is usually paid when by the husband to the wife seeking for right in hand. So now the problem is that they can't move cattle, because usually lobola is done by cattle, like 11 cows in most cases. It varies. So now they can't move cattle, which is one of the concerns. And that's what they raise. We can't pay lobola. And also during celebrations, they normally slaughter cows. When a family had to do some sort of celebration at home, they need to go and buy a cow if they don't have a cow. Now they can't do that, because obviously now there's no movement of livestock. Same goes with funerals. After funeral period, they normally slaughter a cow, and they can't do all of that. That is what the community leaders have been complaining, saying that we have people in our community complaining that they're being affected. They can't practice some of the traditional cultural activities because of the foot and mouth disease. And also there's some fears, you know, when it's a big ceremony, there are some fears to even eat the meat that has been slaughtered, because there's still those conspiracy theories about eating meat that have, you know, foot and mouth. So there's all those issues that are affecting culturally and traditionally.
Locally, how does the supermarket shelves look? I mean, as a resident of KwaZulu-Natal, do you guys have good, adequate supply of milk and meat or red meat? But have you noticed there to be some supermarket shelves are a little bit more bare than usual?
Yeah, already we're starting to feel the especially on the milk side. The milk prices have already started to shoot up. Obviously, there is the issue when it comes to affordability now of milk. It has seemed to have gone up by maybe R2 or more, and also your red meat, your steak, whether your stew beef, those have gone up over the last couple of months. And after speaking to the farmers on the ground, it's bound to go up from where it is now to be more expensive.
Let's sort of end here, because I think we've touched all bases, Sakhiseni, but KwaZulu-Natal's agricultural department, of course, as this general concern at the moment that there may be a new strain of this disease breaking out amongst farmers in this province. What do you know about that at this stage? Is anything sort of confirmed? And what else is the department telling you at this point?
So yesterday, I also had an opportunity to speak to Thembas Kakan, who's a KZN chief that's a veteran. So what he told me is that obviously they have had rumors going around about this new strain, but for now, after having a meeting with the national office, nothing has been confirmed as yet. Obviously, there are rumors, but nothing has been confirmed as yet. And also the issue of vaccine. He said they've got all three. Remember, there's one from Botswana that we have been as a country using for many years now. And he said that is working very fine, because they've been using it since 2001 when the country first experienced it. So that's why they have it, and they trust it that it works and it's going to work. And they also have another from Dolvet and also Biogenesis. So he's saying that, you know, before they choose which one to use, the best candidate vaccine, they have to put it through to experts, where they will look if it does deal with the current virus that it has. So he's saying that they're very comfortable and confident that all the vaccines that they have, it will actually will work against the foot and mouth disease. And also, lastly, he also touched on the issue of different kind of breed, because there is a conspiracy theory about which breed experienced the most of impact by being affected. So he said all those dairy animals and also the feedlot animals are the ones that also experience it badly. Maybe it's because of the issue that maybe they could be stressed as they are pushed to the limit in terms of producing milk. That is why they experience they're being affected the most. But also your communal cattle are also being affected, but not as badly as your dairy animals.
Sure. Sakhiseni Nxumalo is our KZN correspondent on the ground, speaking to affected farmers. Just the scale of these foot and mouth outbreak amongst cattle is quite devastating at the moment, and government coming in for sharp criticism under the administration of Agriculture Minister John Steenhuisen. Slow response getting the locally made vaccine out. Many farmers, as Sakhiseni's relayed, are crying out for this vaccine at this stage. Thank you so much for bringing us that update from the ground, Sakhiseni. Travel safe, and I look forward to your next report from the farmers in Bergville.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks so much to Sakhiseni for that chat. At the same time, the top veterinarian on the department's ministerial task team, Dr. Dani Oudendal, has now been let go for openly criticizing Steenhuisen's slow local vaccine distribution drive. That's the latest headline from our political editor, MZ Ferreira. Quite an interesting story that's since developed there. The minister stated on record that he had issued this letter to Oudendal, basically saying that Oudendal had failed to essentially sign a declaration of impartiality and confidentiality form, and instead Odendaal went and had this interview with Farmers Weekly, which ended up being published, and Odendaal had very much criticized the delay in getting the vaccine out. So that's been an interesting twist happening from inside the Agriculture Ministry. Definitely one to watch here. You can definitely feel Steenhuisen's under a lot of pressure, and perhaps also is deserving of some kudos for pulling out the DA re-election campaign. Some say he would have been a shoo-in, re-winning that top post. Up next, we'll be chatting to Tony Leon, former DA leader, about what he thinks the next DA leader should be focusing on. All that, stay tuned after the break.
You're listening to the latest edition of The Lead on News 24 with Graeme Rowenheimer. If you've got an opinion on what you've heard so far, drop us a short voice note on our WhatsApp hotline. That's 072 562 3179. Trending topic.
Moving to our trending topic for today's lead, former DA leader Tony Leon's offering John Steenhuisen's eventual successor some strong pointers ahead of the party's upcoming elective congress. It's happening this April, of course. Well, Tony's live on the line now. He's jettisoned himself back to his study just in time to have this interview. Tony, how's it going? Welcome back.
Well, apart from the Cape Town traffic, it's all excellent. But I suppose we have a lot of folk producing a lot of cash into the local economy, so that's probably a good thing.
How bad is the traffic? It's like 20 minutes to get from the parliamentary precinct to the foreshore.
Well, it took me an hour to get from this afternoon from the city centre to the southern suburbs, an hour.
Jeez. Okay. Something needs to change there. Hopefully we'll get some solutions in the near future. Okay. Let's straight off the bat, your take on John Steenhuisen's tenure thus far. It's always kind of good in politics, some would say, when a politician knows exactly when to step down, Tony.
Yes, and that was the tenor of what I said today. I said it's an underrated political skill, knowing when to go. Of course, I was a long time ago in office for a long time over two parties, a Democratic Party and a Democratic Alliance. And there were obviously a number of factors that contributed to my decision to stand down. I wasn't subject to public controversy at the time, but I knew actually if I didn't jump, I'd be pushed. And I'd decided that I'd done everything that could reasonably be done with the leadership in my time. So I think every leader makes their own calculation, except, of course, the people who sometimes offer this advice. And I mentioned Boris Johnson, who wrote this brilliant piece about why Tony Blair should go and how some political leaders hang on with cuticle-wrenching intensity because they're too scared of letting go. And he, of course, was exactly what he warned against when he became Prime Minister. So I think wiser leaders jump before they get pushed. And yes, so the DA now has a leadership vacancy. And I think it's a moment for the party to refresh itself. And I think that is, and I mentioned that is one of the features of both the DA and, interesting enough, the ANC. You might say the results are different in both or either case, is that the leaders don't cling on for life. And there are a lot of parties that have failed in South Africa, and I mentioned a few of them, where the leaders have been in office in perpetuity. And the three or four opposition parties which have gone backwards, which are really more personality cults or narrowly focused, rather than broader-based parties. And I think any political party that has got institutional strength does change leaders and get a new person at the top, just as companies do. You can't have a one-person show forever and a day. And I think this is the DA's moment, and it's a critical moment because of what lies ahead.
Absolutely, and of course Tony's alluding to his opinion piece, still doing very well on the front page of News 24 today. Next DA leader has great chance but also faces danger. One of those leaders you were alluding to, I mean, comes straight to mind, General Bantu Holomisa, the United Democratic Movement. He's been in that position for the longest time.
He's not alone. There's the leader of the ACDP, Kenneth Meshwe. I mean, we became leaders of our party the same year in 1994. He's still the leader of the ACDP. Wow. I stood down in 2007. And, with these long-held leaderships, generally the electorate doesn't look favorably on it. Just look at the decline of parties. The IFP was led by the same person for 40 years. And also a declining electoral outlook for them as well.
Do you think, Tony, and it's just something that I just sort of thought now in the moment, do you feel like the Democratic Alliance, as it currently stands and how it's evolved over the years as being a progressive force even during apartheid, do you feel that the party has always had these strong links to the British way of politics, that a good politician knows when to thus end his term, or if he is found to be on the wrong side of history, he knows, look, I'm at the behest of my party, it's rather best that I sort of leave my current position? Is that the DA sort of taking a note from the British way of doing things?
Well, I think we are honest about it. The DA is something of a mengelmus, a sort of mongrel party, because it's got bits and pieces in it. There is that sort of what you might call the British liberal tradition, I guess, is one of the elements, the very strong Afrikaans national element, which came from the NNP. There's a lot of people in the party who, come from different traditions, a lot of people from the Cape Flats, a lot of folk who come from, previously were in the struggle politics and struggle areas. So, strange enough, well, that's got a caricature, apartheid apologists or whatever this nonsense the ANC spews forth, less credible every day. As I mentioned, the DA is actually quite a broad-based party. It's not one thing. It's got several strands. And I suppose, as I mentioned, what the next leader has got to do is not just strengthen those various strands. They sometimes pull against each other, as in any big organization, but he's got to add some new strands, all of his or her own. That's the key. I used to say when I was leader, Graeme, politics has got to be about addition, not division. And, I added a lot of votes. When we started Braai, we had 335,000 when I took over. And I left, we had just under 2 million. And so there was a big gain of a very low base. Helen Ziller took over, big base, which I'd left her, but she made it a much bigger base, so that by the time she left, there were pretty close to 4 million voters in the party. And that's how you add on. The problem I think the DA's got, and the challenge, is I wouldn't say it's plateaued, but it's kind of, it's at a high number compared to other opposition parties. It's in the low 20s. And, that's competitive compared to the others, and when the ANC only has 40, but you want to get it further up to be a real contender for power. But that's somebody's problem. It's not mine.
Well, Steenhuisen did kind of allude in his speech in Durban, didn't he, Tony, that internally the party shows some successful levels of polling in the early 30s at the moment, although us as journalists, we would love to get the credible sort of data here to find out if that's true or not. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. You make the argument that, and I think this is kind of universal in the analysis thus far, that when it comes to the new DA leader, they've got this very delicate balancing act based on the voters' perception of what they want the Democratic Alliance to achieve. Does it stay in the GNU and continue to be a proponent for a good coalition politics there? Or does it become more of an official opposition again, reverts back into that role of holding the ANC accountable? So there's that delicate balancing act, and it's quite a challenge, I think, to achieve.
It is. The voters are quite demanding, as is their right. I mean, if you don't like what the voters are telling you, go into another line of business. So you've got to listen to your voters. You don't have to follow everything they say. And it seems to me, just analysing the polls, and they are exactly that, Graeme. They polls, they photographs. They're not predictions of what's going to happen. So I think your caution is well observed. But the polls, for what they were, say two seemingly contradictory things to the DA. They say, on the one hand, we very much like the fact that you're in the government of national unity. Now, it doesn't mean that they approve of what the government's doing, but they approve a hell of a lot better with the DA in it than the EFF in it. So that scarecrow is not quite a scarecrow, it's a real threat, because if the DA pulls out, likely the EFF MK would go in. And a lot of voters across the board, not just DA voters. I think, in fact, the DA's participation in the GNU is more popular with ANC voters than it is even with DA voters. But it's a well-supported standpoint. But equally, and here comes the apparent contradiction, most DA voters want the DA to take a stronger position in antagonism against or with some key or core ANC positions, which they fundamentally disapprove of. If they approved of them, they wouldn't support the DA. So they want action on race-based redress. They want action against BE in its current form. They want to stop expropriation without compensation. They certainly want to stop the National Health Initiative. And furthermore, in a general sense, those are specifics, targets. They certainly want to see ramped up economic growth and less unemployment. And although the GNU has delivered some modest wins and some important logistical changes, that's pretty much on the care and maintenance side of the ledger. It's not sort of big bang changes that I think most DA voters, most voters want that. You know, you look at ANC voters, their big interest isn't BE, it's jobs. Their big interest is crime.
Yeah.
So the DA leader, the next one, has got in a way reconcile those two apparently contradictory impulses. And that's the leader's job. It's called it's synthesizing. You know, you've got, as Hegel, you say, the thesis and the antithesis, and the leader's job is to be the synthesis. So I'm not saying it's easy, but, you know, if it was easy, anyone could do it. And leaders are not everyone. They're special, or they should be. So I hope that the next leader does it. And the one clue, I think, or suggestion, is I think the next leader, if he or she is not in the current government, in other words, someone who's not been part of the GNU so far, but can have an outside perspective, can look critically at what the DA is compromised on, what it's held fast on, and say, okay, well, I'm now the new leader, and we need to revisit or refresh this. And I think that is an opportunity, in addition to the very fact, and I made this point as well, Graeme, that simply changing a leader, even if you change a good one for a mediocre one, just change in itself communicates a degree of vitality or to a party. And I went back and looked. Every time the DA or the ANC changed leaders, with one exception, and that's arguable, the party did better generally at the next election than they'd done before. And I think that suggests not that the next leader was so much more magnificent than the previous one, great if he or she is, but actually just the idea of change gives you a second look from voters, your own voters and potential new voters.
Tony, I'm going to let you go, but before I do, you couldn't have come on to the lead on News 24 without me asking you this question. You knew it was coming. You knew it was my little trump card at the end. Who's your money on to be the next year leader? Be honest with us.
Well, look, of the names actually mentioned and who've indicated some interest, I the prohibitive favourite is Jordan Hill-Lewis, because he's got the form, he's got the platform. He's also got, and I don't want to favour him or disfavour anyone else, it's just an objective fact. Maybe it's subjective. I think he has an unusual and impressive set of skills that would serve the DA very well and would serve the country extremely well if he gets the job. Now, you know, it's a long way to go. I'm not that my say-so is going to give it to him. Maybe I hope I don't retard his prospects. I just think and I don't know who else is standing, but he's the one name which has been, as we used to say in the Volksmond, it's out there among the people. And I think there's good cause for that speculation. And I think he will be a very good leader, but, you know, it's the DA's got to decide as an institution. It should be a proper contest, not a coronation. And there might be some, you know, other candidates. There might be some surprises. You know, I mentioned my column. I went to the races recently. There's always a dark horse. You know, you might not be the favourite right now, but comes from the outside and, you know, gets to the number one box. So I hope they have a very good debate. I mean, more, you know, the other thing is, final point, Graeme. Leadership issues and contests shouldn't just be about personalities. Of course, the personalities fascinate us because we're humans, but also about positioning. So whether it's Jordan or someone else, and if there's a contest between several people, those contenders or the contender needs to offer a credible positioning for the party going forward along the lines. And I just suggested some of the signposts and tripwires, if I can mix my metaphors, of being alert to them, and then actually offering the way ahead in a credible and thoughtful way. That, to me, would be the ideal, regardless of who it is.
Tony Leon, former DA leader, is currently heading up a strategic comms company these days in Cape Town. Tony, as always, thanks so much for coming on The Lead. I really appreciate your insights. And as a fellow history buff, I love how you'd write your opinion pieces. You always bring in a little history first. You tease the reader. You show them what's coming. And then, bam, you bring them to the golden nugget lying within. And then, bam, the reader's hooked. And, of course, you can only read these things on News 24. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much, Graeme. I really appreciate it.
And finally,
to our regular segment now on this day in South African history, the 11th of February 1962. On this very day, both the late, great playwright Athol Fugard and the late, great Tony Award-winning actor Zakes Markwe arrived in the mother city to stage The Blood Knot, a groundbreaking two-man play confronting apartheid South Africa's colour bar. Now featuring a white and a black brother living together in a township shack, the production at the time challenged the apartheid state's racial boundaries with just two actors and one set. The play opened at the Rauby Theatre and quickly drew major attention both locally and abroad. It ended up in lights at London's West End. Its impact undeniable, with both Fugard and Markwe's growing international profiles, which eventually led to the apartheid state withdrawing Fugard's passport. And if you've been waiting for the answer to Rauby's pointless Braai quiz for today, we asked, along which popular highway in Cape Town is the city considering building a long and tall security wall? The answer? The notorious N2 highway, of course. National Roads Agency SANRAL's come out claiming that the city's never formally consulted with it on these plans after Mayor Jordan Hill-Lewis criticised the agency for failing to protect residents of suburbs along this busy and oftentimes dangerous highway. The mayor, though, in a social media video, insists the city has the buy-in from locals to construct the wall at the end of the day. If this was your answer all along, congratulations. You score the priceless prize of being the most informed person around the Braai place. You're welcome. Thanks so much for choosing The Lead as your choice news podcast this 2026. Look out for our coverage of the State of the Nation address. We'll be coming out at around midday tomorrow with a special panel convened to discuss what we may expect in President Cyril Ramaphosa's speech this Thursday night, and then expect a Friday morning package with all the relevant main highlights and various reaction as we get them from the politicians on the red carpet. Until then, my name's Graeme. So long as there's trusted news first, we'll always have The Lead.